you would have been coached around about the time where Sir Bobby Robson was there. I just wondered what was, everyone always talks about Sir Bobby Robson in such a high regard, and rightly so. What was there? Have you got any stories about the man, or anything specifically that there was about him that was, so special?
Have you seen the documentary about Bobby? Have you watched the one on the?
I've seen the Just Call Me Bobby one.
Yeah, if you go, that's everything about Bobby. What you see there, for me, and I think for a lot of people as well that I play with, likes of Rob and Alan, he was the best. He was the best in the sense of KK was wonderful with the media and when we was doing well. You've had other people like Terry Venables when I had him with England. Tactically, Terry was great, very old school, but the tactical side. So Bobby was a mixture of everything. He was a gentleman. He loved the game and respected it. He loved being around players, so that made you as a player want to play for him. His man management skills was brilliant. When we had, say, an international break or the FA Cup, he'd get the British lads, knowing what we're like, and say, right, I'm going to take you off and play a bit of golf in Dublin or up in St Andrews. So we was all great. But he would let the foreign lads, like Nikos, not so much Nobby Solano, because obviously he was in South America, but he would let the foreign players, Bastoni, go back to Europe for 4 days. So they was happy. We was all happy, because I didn't want to keep walking around the shopping centre with my wife. I'd love to have a game and get on beat with the boys. So we would do that, and the foreign players. So he just knew how to tick everybody's boxes, and just tactically as well. He knew, he would get the best out of people. Wonderful stories. And one thing about Bobby was always about names, and they did it with Brian Robson. And when he called me Brian, he went, no. He called it Brian Robson. Bobby, he said, no, Gaffer, you're Bobby, I'm Brian Robson. So that was when I was at together. And when we played out in Bulgaria, in Sofia, he put a team sheet out, and I was, playing well, as he said, one of the blue chip players, and he wrote Barton down at right back and Warren down at left back, and we just let it go. And he said, right, Barton, I want you to get forward there. You've been great. Make sure you give it to Nobby and tuck round. And Warren, you do this. I said, Gaffer, I know I'm doing well, but I'm thinking, and he's crossing it out, and he'd have a go at John Carver or Mick Wadsworth, but he was just brilliant, just great man management. When he first came in from Ruud, when the dressing room was divided, not by the players, but just by Ruud Gullit and the way he tried to cause anarchy in front of it, pushing Alan out, Robley out, Stuart Pearce out, Nick Stabizaz out. And, they're my friends. I know I'm professional and I've played out there and I was still captain of the club, but that was my mate, and I didn't think it was right with the way he was being treated. So when Bobby came in on the Thursday after we lost to Sunderland on the Tuesday, I think it was, and we should have, in an ideal world, tried to get Bobby after KK. And I think, things would have been a lot smoother and a lot easier. But he turned around straight away and he said to Alan in the group, and I was just pleased when he went round, shaking everybody's hands, that he knew my name. He said, Warren, pleasure to meet you. So I went to Gary, he knows my name. It's great. I've got a chance to play him. I mean, this guy had been in PSV, Porto, Barcelona, the England team, and everything. So he's got millions of names, but he, is good enough to know. And he said, Alan, why'd you keep facing in front of all of us? Why'd you keep facing for the ball? And Alan, in his way, went, well, that idiot told me to keep showing for the ball. I said, I want you to face that way. That's where the goal is. I want you to face that way. So that was it. He said, go on, boys, have a little warm around. Done that. Went out on Saturday. We won 8-0 against Sheffield Wednesday. Alan got 5 goals facing that way. And again, which was, just so simple but so effective, and made us and Alan realise, we want you facing that way. We want you going towards goal. And he goes on and gets 260 goals in the Premier League, which I don't think is ever going to be beaten. So just the way he was with people, would be in a hotel, he'd let people walk out. It was just everything you want to be as a person. He had a wicked side to him, an evil side. Me and Rob Lee, when Rob was 35, I was 33. He was like, you're getting old and you've got to go. And I was like, and it weren't until about 2 or 3 years later, I was like, Rob, he was right. We was ready to move on at that time, and the team went back in the Champions League. Me and Rob had great careers and thoroughly enjoyed it. But it was the right time. Genius come in. Aaron Hughes was ready to take over. Bellamy was playing. Dyer was playing. Robert was coming in. Jonathan Woodgate was coming. So it was ready for the team to evolve. And he just knew, a bit like Sir Alex, when to get rid of us. Because I was 3 months before, and I was still captain. and when Alan was injured. So I was playing, and he just said, you can stay and you won't play as lot, or if not, take the opportunity. So I went off to Derby for 2.5 years because I wanted to still play. I loved the game and I wanted to play. But deep down, where he wanted to go, it was the right thing to do for the club. And I totally understand it. And I told him afterwards when I see it, I said, he's a bloody sod, but you was right, because I wanted to play. And I said, I know, Warren, but at the end of the day, I'm looking ahead. And I said, I respect that from him. And I said, I miss him every day. He was great for me, not just because I played for him, but I respected everything he did, the way he was with the security guys at the office, the way he was when we walked into the canteen, no pushing and shoving. We don't see that anymore. We don't see anymore. And people may think it's old school and it's a bit silly, but it was part of what made us a professional team and made the team get back in the Champions League by having discipline on and off the field. And he was, as I said, he was brilliant. He had a mixture of everything, and the game is sorely missed because he was the right thing how the game was. And as I said, he was, at my time, I learned so much off of him, not only as coaching, but as I said, as being a proper human being. So yeah, great guy. I was lucky as well because Kenny Dalglish was brilliant in his own way. Ruud was rude. It tactically was good, but man management, wasn't his strong point, to say the least. But Bobby was brilliant, as KK was as well.
Yeah. What was it about Ruud that was so prickly?
He said the name Ruud. He just that. Like I said, he wouldn't. It was about the only person I know. You go in his office and normally you have a picture of your dog or your family or what. It was a picture of him. So Ruud was great. You know what I mean? Can I just say, the player and we played Reading when we opened their stadium, and we was awful in pre-season. So he said to Tomo, the kit man, who's actually still there, "Have you got any boots?" and give him a shirt. He went on and passed the ball everywhere, and he was brilliant. But it was his man's management skill, how he was. When he left Alan out, he didn't tell him. He got Steve Clark to do it. He was shaking in his boots. They had to tell Alan Shearer, "You're not playing against Sunderland at St James's Park." He didn't have the balls to go and tell him, because his words were, which he said to me and Steve Howie and Speedo, "Well, no one told me when I got dropped." And I went, "With all due respect, Ruud, you was World Player of the Year or European Player of the Year twice. Whoever told you weren't playing?" He went, yeah, baby, that's a good point. I said, "But this is Alan Shearer. If you're not going to play him, at least tell him you're not going to play him. Don't pass the buck." And a small thing, which is a big thing for me, when he said about Sunderland, Newcastle, it's a regional derby. That's when he didn't get it. He didn't get what Newcastle was. And it's, he went to Galaxy and did the same thing. Lexi Lalas, who I speak to, he was on the golf course. He'd give Lexi a list of players that he wanted. And it was like, no, Ruud, you have to go to the drafts. You have to look at people. You actually have to work,
Yeah.
And that's where, Ruud fell short of not understanding what Newcastle was, not understanding what, it means to play for that club in that area for that group of fans. And people will say it's the same for everybody, but it ain't. It's not. Leeds possibly, because it's a huge club and it's great for them to be back in the Premier League. But being in the Northeast and being a Southerner, being in the Northeast, to appreciate what it is and understand it was important for me to be a professional at Newcastle and to understand that. And people like Lee Clark or Steve Watson or Peter Beardsley, they told me that from day one, and I got it. It fell in my mindset. It's like, I got it. I can't, as much as I didn't really know Kevin Ball or Mickey or the Quinny or any of them or Kevin Phillips, but I didn't like them and they didn't like me. So that's fine, but it was mutual respect, and that's how it was, and that's how it still is now. I see Mickey Gray not as often as I'd love to, but when we have seen each other, it's like, "I used to love kicking you," and he said, "I love beating you." But it was done in the right way, and at the end, it was like, you know what? It was part of being in that Northeast. It wasn't just another game. It was a special, and that's what Ruud didn't understand and didn't get.